When I looked at today's lineup and I saw my name dash gender, I thought I was talking about maybe working with gay boys or bisexual kids. And then it really came to mind to me how many different terms are being kind of tossed around right now. Just a really brief introductory to terms. Of course, gender is really either of the two sexes simply. Gay kids are obviously kids who are primarily attracted to kids of the same sex. Bisexual, attracted to both sexes. But I don't know if anyone else is having this experience, but kids are coming in, and I have kids in 5th and 6th grade who are coming in and talking about non-binary and preferred pronouns. And there's just really an explosion of dialogue and exploration. And again, I'm not sure if it's primarily a phenomena in the States or whether this is worldwide. But even myself as a gay man and a therapist, sometimes I'm scratching my head to kind of go, well, what is that category? Kids come in talking about being pansexual. Pansexual is attracted to all genders, including asexual and non-binary. The first time a kid asked me if I was cisgendered, I had no idea what he meant. So there are these terms that are helpful to know. Cisgender is simply the fact that your gender identity matches your biological sex and identity. And of course, transgender is your gender identity or expression that differs from your birth gender. So all of this kind of came to mind to me as I was thinking about this presentation today. And I'm going to narrow what I'm talking down to working with gay and bisexual, and mostly my practice is young boys. Maybe that's partly because I'm one of not many male therapists who work with kids, so I tend to get a lot more boy referrals. And it's a really perfect subject because for any of you who may not know, June is Gay Pride Month. And so it's kind of a nice segue. There's several areas I want to just touch base and talk about. I'll try to keep awareness of time because there's a lot I would like to talk about. One of them first is the concept of coming out. Coming out, I think it's important to realize, is both a kind of a singular event and a developmental process. I'll use myself as an example. I came out to my family when I was in 6th or 7th grade, I think 6th grade actually. And so clients will talk about, oh, I came out last week. And it is a specific kind of declaration to friends and family that you identify as being bisexual or gay or other or queer. And that it is easy to kind of hear that people have come out and not realize that the coming out process is really a long developmental process. Like I may have come out in 6th grade, but did I come out professionally until my 30s? Or do I bring that identity with me when I'm at the gym and someone says a homophobic remark? And I come out and say, well, as a gay man, that's offensive. So the coming out process actually is a really long developmental process. And the other aspects that I want to touch on are the idea of a negative introject. When we're working with kids who identify as other, I think it's important to remember that our culture is really based on a heterosexual norm, obviously, and that the When Violet talks about the negative introjects, that's of course what we have from the culture around us that we just take in whole as children and that continue to kind of live inside of us. So, to remember that as a gay child or bisexual child growing up, that everything around that child, the culture, the TV, the advertising, the churches, and even school events are all centered around heteronormative kind of ideas. So that even most kids who grow up in families grow up in heterosexual families. So this kind of model of heterosexual normative stuff is just kind of pervasive for kids growing up who may experience themselves as different. Violet talked about kind of the disowned parts of the self also, and Gestalt therapy talks a lot about the disowned parts of self. And that, in that, I think it's important to look at ideas of kind of how identity formation happens. I think for most of us, we don't think about identity formation a lot because we're in sort of the heteronormative spectrum. But that for an identity formation for gay kids, and to have an identity that is different than the mainstream culture, that it is done in isolation. That, oftentimes the identity formation of maybe sort of other groups that are not mainstream, whether they be religious or whether they be cultural, the experience of being an immigrant, which is other. Well, you grow up in a family with immigrants, or the experience of being African American, you grow up in a family with African American, or Jewish, you grow up in a family with that culture. But for gay and bisexual kids, they grow up in a family that they don't share the identity with. And so oftentimes kids feel a need as they become aware to hide parts of themselves and to monitor parts of themselves. So in this identity formation, a lot of gay and bisexual kids end up being monitoring themselves very, very closely, monitoring maybe how their voice comes across. Is their voice too feminine or too masculine? Will it give them away? What their hand expressions might be like, what their walk may be like, so that they fit in more to the group around them. Peter Martorell talks a lot about the work with boys and how the work with boys across all gender identities and sexual orientations, that boys are kind of put in a box, that there's some very strict behavioral kinds of expectations from boys. And so in particular for gay and bisexual boys, there is a real strong need to kind of conform to what is allowable kind of expressions. There's a wonderful, I don't know if anyone's seen La Cage aux Folles, which is a wonderful film. There's an example there where one member of a partner is teaching the other how to walk like a straight person for a social event that they're going to be at, And that, actually, even though our culture right now seems to be very, very permissive about sexual expression, non-binary, gay and bisexual kids. In fact, I've had some kids who told me that, who are straight, who feel like, well, boy, I feel really out of it because I'm straight, and everyone else is bi or non-binary, and I'm just kind of I don't fit in as much because I'm not any of these more interesting things. But that still kind of takes away from the fact that even kids who are in very, very permissive and very supportive families have a lot of negative introjects, and the identity formation is still not an easy process. You know, Violet emphasized for healthy functioning that kids and adolescents need to use all parts of themselves. And what I find in some of my work with kids is that while they say, I may ask them, like, they may say, oh, I came out last week to my friends, and it's all good. All of my friends are very supportive, and I don't have any really, any issue with this. Essentially, let's move on to something else. And part of what I try to do sometimes is to look at, well, that may be true, and I try not to insinuate that they should have a problem around this, but I try to kind of go for what are ways that they may be experiencing some of the negative introjects still, or that their process of identity formation, or what are the parts of disowned parts of self that are important to look at. And I do that in a way that hopefully, if I have time, I'll show you a couple of drawings and some exercises that help in that way. Maybe I can do that now and see if I can do my screen share. So this is my technology challenge here, folks. I'm going to do a screen share, but the practice that I use is a drawing one. And I ask kids, sometimes I'll tell them, I know that you don't feel like you have any kind of issues around coming out, but I'm working on a paper, or I'm working on something that I want to publish. And so would you help me out with kind of a drawing exercise? And so I might ask them to draw the world of straight kids, and then have them draw on the same paper the world of gay or bisexual kids. And this is one of the drawings that one of my kids did. And then oftentimes the third part of that is I ask them to put themselves in the world of straight kids. And in this particular image, you have on one side a boy who up here, it shows in the yellow all of the kids who are at his school. And most of these kids are really nice and friendly, and that there is one boy there, as you can see with the red on his cheeks, who is like the really, really mean kid, who he says things like, and here in the notation he puts, like, you're just a shit, and you're a gay ass bitch. And this is terms that this kid used that one kid in his school would use with him. And as you can see, all the other kids here look kind of friendly and nice. But this boy said to me, well, there's always one in the crowd who really has it out for me. And he went on to draw like male plus male equals happiness for most of the kids around in his school. But for this one kid, straight does not mean any happiness with being gay. And so this kid is delivering all these messages. And on the other side is the world of gay and bisexual boys. And so many of them, like this boy here, he says, well, most of my gay and bisexual friends at school, they can just cover their ears and they don't hear all of those bad things. So they kind of find a way to be okay. But that once in a while, what happens is that this character here with the red and the orange on top is a boy who has heard all of those things and has gotten really angry. He says, you can see here in this boy, the tears are flowing out of his eyes. and the red on his head and the orange on his head, and he's just so full of anger, and he's so upset at hearing what this boy with the red cheeks over here is saying, that he both is crying all the time and trying to keep the red on top of his head, the rage on top of his head, from exploding. This kid tells himself, I can never tell anyone because everyone will hate me. And then, you know, he draws some lines in between the two here, because he says, actually, some of the boys in the straight world over here, they might be gay or bisexual. And then when they hear that, this is how they feel. You know? So it's really having kids draw both worlds can be really helpful in terms of getting some image and some connection to how some of that discrimination has really affected them and kind of hurt their sense of self. And so oftentimes I then will also have kids take that image of the person in the bisexual or gay world and have them join in with the straight world, just to kind of, because that's where most kids live anyway, to have them begin to identify, well, like, what's it like to be that really angry boy? Or what's it like to be over on this side and to be with all of these other straight kids? And what I find is that even kids who said that they have no issue with their coming out and they feel very supported will connect with experiences that they've had in their life where they've been incredibly hurt or pained by some of the cruelty that has come to them, and, you know, can kind of reconnect and talk about that, you know, even though they may talk about it in the past tense, like, oh, I remember when I felt that way, you know, and, you know, then sometimes following up with questions of, you know, when do you feel that way now? And kids oftentimes will bring in some of what is their sort of, what I guess in Gestalt would be called unfinished business, you know, a part of themselves, that negative introject that, you know, has been stored away in a sense. So that's really mostly what I want to talk about, working with kids' disowned sense of self, and how to kind of work with some of the integration that can happen in identifying the negative introjects with gay and bisexual kids. And so now my challenge will be if I can just close this out and get back to the regular screen. So I also thought, if there's time, if anybody has any questions that they want to ask.
Yes, why is that picture called Ascension to Glory?
Well, because this boy said that through this process of figuring out where he fits in with his straight friends and the straight kids, that he gets even more power and he feels better. So he ascends to a sense of glory. This particular kid is a really complex kid who actually, interestingly enough, would write notes to himself that were very homophobic and very hate-filled, and then pretend that someone from class had sent it to him. And then he would take it to the teacher and say, you know, see what kids think of me, even though he actually wrote it himself. And his own sense of this idea of internalized homophobia and the negative introject, for him, it was very extreme. You know, these notes would say, you know, you're just a gay ass bitch, and, you know, just this really intense, horrible language that he would write and then tell the school that someone sent that to him. You know?
Patrick, thank you very much for this. And we could do not just a whole just for now call on this subject. In fact, one of the things I'm thinking about for the next series is to do more in depth. But what I wanted to do today is to give just sort of a survey of the foundation presenters. But it is our goal to have you hear more, and I'm hoping that there'll be more to present as we put together our next conference. And because just this one topic, it's always been an important topic. It seems to be even more timely and discussed, and we need experts like yourself to present on this, and not just about the theory, but what you showed in the picture is the practice. When you have a child who's dealing with these issues, how exactly do you help them process all the feelings around it and help them form this sense of self, deal with all of it? So that was so powerful. Thank you for that.
Okay.